In today's dividend show, we're going to focus on Petrobras, one of the dividend stars from the emerging markets that not enough people are paying attention to. This stock offers great upside if you believe the oil price will be higher. Doesn't even have to go a lot higher, just stay higher than it has been in the first quarter 2026 and the fall of winter of 2025. It offers a really juicy dividend, and it also offers the possibilities of bonus dividends. Trifactor for your gains. Let's get into it. Bull Market Lifestyle presents Hot Dividend Winners for max dividend profits through high yields and high stock upside. Welcome to our new show, Hot Dividend Winners. Once a week, every Wednesday, unless something crazy happens in the markets, we will turn our attention to dividend stocks. So we're going to talk dividend strategy, my dividend strategy, and we're going to talk specifically high yield dividend stocks, not the 2%, the 3% dividends. Who cares about those? Really attractive high yield dividend stocks that also offer high upside in the stock for additional gains. And that's why Petrobras is the perfect stock to start off this new show. I like to specifically invest in sectors or markets that I believe have a promising future ahead of them, mid to long term. Therefore, I can hit this bird with a stone as well. That was probably incorrect, and I already have some Vogue people in New York crying in the fetal position about that. So let's get to it. Today we're going to talk about Petrobras, which, if you've followed this channel for a while, you're familiar with, and I know quite a few viewers bought the stock after I presented it here on the channel last fall, early winter, fall. In part of the regular show, we didn't have the dividend show then, and obviously they're quite happy. So again, if you missed that or you haven't been part of the channel, then fair enough, good. Just hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of the shows when we present the stock. So today we're just going to focus on Petrobras. Why I, who am invested in Petrobras as well, really like the stock and what I like about it. So Petrobras, let's start off with this. Let's start off with the sectors. Again, if you want to invest in high yield dividend stocks, and to me, high yield means anything above 5%. Yeah. So 5% dividend yield on the invested capital at the time of investment, which means if I assume that the sector that this company is in is going to do well in the future, therefore the company hopefully will do well. Therefore, they will increase their dividend. My dividend yield measured on the invested capital will actually grow substantially mid to long term. That's another positive fact that you do not have with government bonds. So I like Petrobras because energy stocks and oil stocks were completely bombed out last fall and winter. The oil price was bombed out, went even lower first quarter this year. Do I believe that oil will play a substantial role in the world economy? Yes, I do. So therefore, I want to be invested in oil. And I'm investing in oil through my dividend strategy. I hold Petrobras, I hold the European Shell, for example. It's also a dividend stock. Petrobras notoriously pays a really high dividend. And this is important with Petrobras. So I not only get exposure to the oil sector, I not only get a high dividend yield, and we're going to get to that in a second, I also get exposure to Brazil. So I hit oh God, they're the birds again, the Vogue people. They're going to have a heart attack. They need to go to therapy after watching this video. I catch 3 sectors that I want to be invested in emerging markets exposure, oil, and high dividend in one stock. So let's start off with looking at Brazil. And usually when you talk about that in the markets, you do that with the Brazil ETF. So here's the iShares MSCI Brazil ETF, EWZ. That's basically the measuring stick for Brazil. And we're going to start by zooming out. And we're going to go to the monthly. So that already tells you we're talking about a long time here. And as you can see, and let me turn off real quick the 50, because when we talk about monthlies, that's not that important. The ETF, and therefore the Brazilian market, in the summer of last year, broke the ultra long-term downtrend that has been in place since 2008. That is a massive, massive buy signal. And as you can see, we ran up after it, and now we corrected, which is very normal and very healthy, this breakout rally that we saw. But the uptrends are still intact. But this is what I want to be in. I want to be in Brazil because we broke out. Again, these are monthly candles. We are correcting this now. And the reason why I like Brazil is one of the big commodity countries in the emerging markets, not in Russia or China, Russia adjacent countries. So the stans, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. So by investing in Brazil, I'm also profiting from the commodity supercycle indirectly. Now, Petrobras is one of the heavyweights in the Brazilian stock market. So it's weighted really highly in the ETFs. So if people invest in Brazil, they will automatically buy Petrobras. So I profit from this. Petrobras will profit, the stock that is, from the inflows into the Brazilian market without even producing 1 barrel of oil. So that's great. So I actually have 3 upsides, right? I have turnaround in oil and the energy stocks. I have that the company itself will do well operationally. We'll get to that in a second. And third, I profit from Brazil investments. So that is why I really like Petrobras. And by the way, we did the same thing with Ecopetrol for Colombia. So with that in mind, let's get to Petrobras. And here's the chart of Petrobras. And this is the monthly chart since 2008. So I would like for you to ignore this peak here, okay? We will never see this again. I was in the market for that. It was a crazy time. Brazil was so hot. Petrobras was so hot. The oil price was at way over 100. People were sure it would go to 200. It's a hype. I don't think Petrobras will ever go back there unless we would get to oil 200, 250. I don't think that's realistic. I don't need it to be realistic in order to make money with this dividend investment, where again, for me, I first and foremost care about the dividend and then the stock profits second. That's a great bonus for me. But if you look at the chart, you can see long-term Petrobras looks great. Downtrend broken. I can draw it in here real quick. Let's do this. Doesn't matter. They're all broken. We have a new uptrend channel that has been in place since 2016 that has moved up the stock. Now it doinked off the upper end, came back down to the middle zone, as you can see here in a monthly, and also to this resistance zone, which again, we know, very normal after basically close to a 12-year bottoming formation. That's a long time, and we know what happens when these bottoming formations are completed. You don't get a rally of around, what is that, probably like 12%. Yep, 12, well, if we take this one, 13%. After you break such a long downtrend. Retest normal again, but that is usually not the end of the rally. So where could Petrobras go? I think it could very well go into this resistance zone around $35 to $40, which means this stock, mid to long term, if the oil price establishes itself like around $85, that's a double. So I get a high dividend yield. Again, we're going to come to this now. And I get the potential upside of another double in the share price. Yes, please. That is exactly the type of high dividend winner and hot dividend winner that we're talking about here in the show. Right now, the dividend yield is 6%. Now, it was a lot higher, obviously, when I talked about it on this channel last fall, last winter. And also, and this is very important when you talk about dividends, especially in the emerging markets and the commodity sector, in these markets, the companies like to pay out a base dividend and then a special dividend on top, which kind of obviously connected to how good are the profits doing, how good is it doing operationally. So therefore, let's take a look at the last earnings, and they were really strong. We had record oil production, we have increased spending, that's good, and Petrobras is investing in the future. We had profits, 32.7 billion Brazilian real, and that was in the first quarter when the oil price was much lower. So now the oil price is higher even after the recent correction. If it stays that way, we can assume the next quarter's going to be even more profitable. And therefore, it's highly likely that the special dividend is going to come back. Reason being, and this is important when we talk about these type of companies and the emerging markets, I actually like high state ownership, government ownership in these type of stocks. Why? Because they depend on these dividends. So they want high dividends because that's income for them that they then can use and spend. Now, we always have to say that can be a risk factor in election years. For example, with Petrobras, which basically does everything from in Brazil, from producing oil to gas stations. There could be political pressure to lower gas prices for the election period. But overall, the government wants the high dividend yield. So they will want the special dividend. It's in their own interest. And the state owns about 50% of Petrobras of the voting rights, a little more. If you add the non-voting shares, there are a lot of them out there, it's less. But it's a large chunk of Petrobras. So it's in their interest. They're going to make a lot of money if Petrobras pays out a high dividend. So that's perfect for us. The stock is dirt cheap. So not only do we look at the stock market and at the chart and say, this offers a big long-term upside. Again, not tomorrow, not in 2026, mid to long term. Fundamentally, it's super cheap. The PE ratio is between 5 to 6. And again, if the oil price stays higher, this becomes really, really interesting. Now, let me add one more point that I would like to talk about, and that is that people always say, well, yeah, but it's companies, it's risky, it's more volatile. That's true, but it depends how you want to use the dividend. I don't use the dividend as a passive income for my living expenses. If you do that, then something super stable like government bonds, and by the way, looking at you, Argentina, I would be quite careful if I would judge government bonds, especially outside the US, as super stable. Even in Europe, might be a little iffy with the debt situations. But, that's for you to decide, whatever you want to do. I use my dividends to pay for my travels. So it's a bonus. So therefore, I can absolutely have a year where they don't pay a special dividend. And then the next years, they might even pay a little more, and it evens out to become a very attractive dividend yield altogether for Petrobras. So I'm invested in Petrobras. I'm not selling even after the recent pullback because, as you can see in this ultra long-term channel here. That's completely normal. Even if we go lower to the lower end of the uptrend channel, yeah, that would sting a little bit. But that for me would be a great buying opportunity. And I don't think we're going to go back there with what I just showed you with a breakout in Brazil. And again, the turnaround in energy stocks and in the oil price. We have to remember one thing, and that's why I like Petrobras quite a bit. The Iran peace deal is a terrible deal for the Middle East, from what I've read and from what I can tell at the moment. It actually increases Iran's geopolitical power in the region. So there will be lots of governments around the world that will say, maybe we should reduce our dependency on the Middle Eastern oil. So that means they need to go somewhere else. They sure can't go to Russia. They're not going to go to Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, which are becoming more and more under Chinese influence anyway, because they want that oil, they want that energy, they want that uranium there. So that means we have Australia. That's far away. That's a lot of shipping. Okay, but possible. And then we have Latin America. So all of a sudden, geopolitically, the oil-producing countries in Latin America, and that is Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela is still a mess. So Brazil really comes out one of the secret winners that nobody's talking about. And when we talk about Brazilian oil, well, we're talking about Petrobras. So there you have it. That is the rundown on Petrobras. Again, once we see if they're going to announce a special dividend, I'm going to do an update on it here on Hot Dividend Winners. I hope you like the concept. You see, it's very different than the people that tell you, well, buy a Coca-Cola and collect a 2.1456 dividend yield. Okay, that's one option to do it. I like to play big in the markets, and it is absolutely possible to do this. And we're going to do this here on Hot Dividend Winners in the future shows. Have a great day. If you are so kind and you watched all the way to the end, I assume you like the content. So it would be really nice if you could hit the subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. Helps us out and helps you out not to miss the next hot dividend stock. Bye-bye. Have a great day.